Quick announcement, I'm releasing a game. First off, how many people think it's a good idea to support indie developers?
Yeah!
How many people have or know a mother who likes puzzle games?
Yeah!
People, buy this game for Mother's Day. It's awesome.
Yeah!
Yeah! It's called Two Mom. It's going to be on iOS, on Android, and probably BlackBerry and Windows Phone and Facebook. Because it's Unity, so I'm just throwing it on everything. It's this incredible puzzle game. It's actually probably the most deep puzzle game that I've ever bothered to play, I guess. But it's actually really
of authority then.
Yeah, I'm not really an authority on puzzle games, but yeah, super deep puzzle game. It's a huge challenge, but it's also super accessible and has a really nice tutorial, so your mom is actually going to be able to play it and enjoy it. Tried it on lots of moms, they love it. So yeah, that's going to be coming out for Mother's Day. So I guess it's going to be 2mom.gift. Yeah, I got the gift domain that just opened up like yesterday. So 2mom.gift.
Not good there.
Yeah, so 2mom.gift. Check it out, buy it for your mom. Support indie developers. The reason I say support indie developers, I'm working on Keep Talking Nobody Explodes. So if you like that game, you can support it by buying my game.
Woo! Yeah! Keep talking. How was that at PAX East? How did it work out?
What?
How did it work out at PAX East?
PAX? Yeah, Ben was sitting down there.
I think he's up there.
He's gone. Anyway, we got a bunch of people from like Twitch stream people playing the game, and various streamers.
So you had a good reception.
Very good reception. At first, they were totally clueless, which was fun. But they really got into it. They were totally excited about playing this game. They just kept playing and playing and playing. So it's obviously got a lot more depth to it now than in the Game Jam version. There's a lot more things that you can do, a lot more things to solve.
Have you planned out a trajectory that will maybe not include the
We've already got working gamepad controls, and they're feeling really good. So. I'm trying to definitely. Yeah! But not for this Father's Day. I think that's in like what, June? Yeah, not for this Father's Day. But it's coming. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
What do I say? So I learned a lot about Scratch the last few days. I'll just basically talk about it a bit and show a bit of it because it's easy to show. So Scratch is it's basically kind of like Flash for kids or people who don't know programming. It comes out of the MIT in the States, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. They have a group called the Lifelong Kindergarten Learning Group. They're responsible for some things you've heard of, such as Lego Mindstorms. You've probably heard of Logo from ages back with the little turtle. There's a thing called Star Logo, which is also made by Mitchell Resnick. He was involved with both of those things. He is the guy who did Scratch. And there's also a third thing you may or may not have heard of that came out a few years ago for Android called App Inventor, which anyone can use to make an app. And that came out of the same group with Google's help. And it actually is very similar to Scratch, and in fact, there's a editor here for Scratch. Hard to see there, but it's kind of a visual editor. It's basically the same code as for Scratch, because Scratch is very visual as well. So I'll be showing you some of this in a second, but basically, Scratch is kind of, you can make games with it, but you could also make little interactive stories, or just like Flash, you can make a game, or you can make an animation. And it's basically the same kind of thing. And where can you get it? It's free for like Linux, Mac, and Windows, or you just go to a web browser and do it all in the browser. So, Here's scratch.mit.edu. That's where the Scratch website is. Now this is interesting also. How many of you guys are on like GitHub or SourceForge or any place like that, right? So kind of like a social site for coders. You know, you can host your code, comment on things, share things. That's what this is basically GitHub for kids. You can log in, make your username, put your code up there, do it. Instead of forking a repo, they've got the same thing, but it's called Remix. You can basically make a copy of it. Any of the code that's up here, you can not only run it, but you can also look at the code, like look at the scripts and the assets and everything. So you can fork someone else's and just start editing it. You can follow people, which you can star repos. Here it's heart them, you heart them instead of starring them. Just like Little Big Planet. But basically, yeah, you can basically work on your stuff and then you share it with others. It becomes public and either people can comment on it or you can turn off comments if you don't want comments. So I've got a kid who is on here. She's only started doing this earlier in the school year, in grade 6, because one of her teachers started twice a week saying people could stay an hour extra after school and do this kinds of stuff. So Tuesday and Thursday she stayed, not every week, but most weeks she stays a bit extra. She only started learning this through school and then YouTube videos and whatnot. And I made her the little account on the website. And she's worked on a bunch of things, but she's published 4 of them so far down here. And let me see if I can run some of them. So you hit the green flag to run it. This is one of those simple little make your own ice creams things. So you can choose the things you want and reset it. So pretty damn simple. But the thing is, like, she drew, you know, in a little editor in the web, she drew the ice cream. And she hooked up all the buttons and all that stuff. This one is a maze moving thing which uses the keyboard. So I'm moving up. And you gotta get to the exit without touching the walls. Yeah, actually, so, you know, in her version, when you touch a wall, you just warp back to the beginning. And when you get to the exit, you just warp back to the beginning. So she hasn't added a lot of extra stuff there. So, and if I touch a wall,
You should heart this.
so no, what happened? I'll show you. Like, I can come back and we can look at the code for that. Now this one, they were learning in grade 6 about atoms. So all she made here is basically. And it's not a game, it's just an animation showing like an atom, and when you click on things, it tells you a bit about it. And it's in French, because they do French. So it doesn't have to be a big game, you can make illustrated storybooks or things like that. And so far the most advanced one she's made is a driving game. You're a little delivery car, and it goes with a mouse. And cars come at you and you've got to not hit things. Now, there's actually a bug. Only green cars hit you.
Yeah.
It goes here. Now, the thing is, when she was showing me this on the weekend, she's like, I know how to fix that, So if you want, you can take a few seconds and actually fix it. But instead, I'll show you what happens when you make a new, when you actually say remix, you get a copy of it. Like I can literally, without logging in, you don't need to log in, you can go to any of these, look at like what are the best ones that the community has rated, and you can immediately like say remix and look at the code and you'll see the scripts and you can play around with it. You don't need to log in if you want to look at this thing. And I'm not suggesting anyone's going to make their next game in Scratch, but you probably all know young people who might want to be starting programming and maybe you don't want to break out Unity or C++ or stuff. This is an easy way to show a few things because all the concepts you'll see in a second are the same. If you actually go like File, New, and make a new project, you get a few different areas here. You get like a canvas, you get an area with a bunch of things, you get some sprites. You actually get a big thing on the left which has a whole bunch of tips and tutorials here, on the right, sorry. which I'm just going to get rid of because I want the space. But if you start out, like I've got this sprite, which is a little kitty cat, right? And I've got 3 tabs here, scripts, costumes, and sounds. And the way it works is it's visual. If I want to make this guy move, I could just put here a move thing there, and I grab an event and say when the green flag is clicked, move 10 steps. But maybe I want something, I mean that's not going to be too exciting, so maybe we'll just always do that.
Move 10 steps forever.
Yeah. So the point of this is it's exactly the same as programming with like loops and if statements and all that, but you can't screw up the syntax. It's like jigsaw puzzles. They only go together a certain way. And I mean, maybe I don't want 10 steps, maybe I want 2 steps. And then maybe I want to say rotate. Yeah, that's right. 2 steps and then rotate 5 degrees, right? So when I click go, it's just immediate. Wait.
Why isn't it moving 10 steps?
There you go.
I just gotta, there. I'm gonna go. Alright, so that's a little bit, and it's just kind of sitting there. But I can also say forever. So there's costumes, right? Right now there's 2 costumes. There's like my foot is out and my foot is in. So that's almost like a 2-step walking animation. So I could say forever at the same time, like concurrently. Events, looks. Yeah, I barely know this, but switch costume to, and I don't want to just go to costume 2. I want to go to, oh yeah, next costume. Yeah, that's too fast, so then maybe I need a delay. Yeah, there's a delay somewhere. Somewhere there's a sleep.
Wait 1 sec. Turn that to this point.
Is this in control? Oh, there it is, man. So, that's much more reasonable. I wish you'd get in the center though. Let me stop it and restart it.
That rotation.
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't. So I just learned something. Because I didn't put when the green flag is clicked, this didn't start running. So programming is like this. There's also stuff for sound, there's stuff for drawing. You can kind of make functions and variables, although I found out you can't really make a variable that's a global, but it sounds like they're maybe going to add that and all that. I think this is all done in ActionScript, so it just runs in Flash, but this is basically what it looks like, and I can show you what this, I should stop that. Just quickly show you, if you click here, see inside, you can actually see what this looks like. It's got a number of scripts, costumes and things. Down here there's 2 different sprites and there's the stage, there's like 2 backgrounds. So you can see that it's got things like when game over comes, this hides, and the costume, she broadcasts an event called Game Over, and somewhere it listens for that and changes the background, so this other background that you drew and all that. Oh, backdrop 1. Switch backdrop to background 1 when it starts. When game's over, go to backdrop 2. Backdrop 2 is like the game over screen. If I click back on the delivery car, you can see the reason it only works for green cars is because it's basically detecting when I touch color green, that's when the game over occurs. So the fix for that is either you handle more colors or you make all the cars green or stuff like that. She did do one thing. She didn't want too many cars to come. So what she does is she basically, for the car, she's got 2 cars and one only ever occurs in the top half of the screen from 1 to 180. It's like a Cartesian coordinate system with 0 in the center. And the other car only ever comes from -1 to -180. So it's like one's at the top, one's at the bottom, and there's 2 on the screen at any time. So, you know, kids can understand this at a certain age. You know, in grade 6 they are learning about Cartesian coordinates. Scrolling is, you know, moving things negative and remove the background and all that stuff. So this is Scratch. You can play with it on the website and show it to young people you know. All right.